Good evening and good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, the face-off between the government and social media giant Twitter is only intensifying. Now, the social media giant Twitter did block off a part of the accounts that the government had asked to be censored for allegedly carrying inflammatory content. But this is roughly just about half, just about 500 handles we understand out of the 1178 handles that are actually being flagged off by the government. So here is how it worked. In round one, government asked that 257 accounts with provocative content be blocked. Twitter did it for a bit and then they reversed that decision. Then the government sent a fresh list of 1178 accounts for various reasons. Now, the Twitter says of those, some of them have been deactivated, action taken. But what was released today as a detailed statement by Twitter has only sparked off a bigger controversy and a bigger fight with the government. Because Twitter says the orders by the government are inconsistent with the Indian law, that they have not taken action on accounts of journalists and politicians and activists on account of their own policies, that they will continue dialogue with the government. It's a very, very strongly worded statement where they are talking about some action taken, but on the other hand also defending where they haven't acted and why they have done so, challenging the government's order in a way, saying it's not consistent with your own law of the land. The government's response, which first appeared, by the way, on Koo, the other social media app, which is an Indian-made app and is now being pushed in many ways by the government ministers and the government departments itself. The government says, well, your statement is unusual, and it's unusual that you've decided to issue such a statement just before the meeting with the ministry officials. Now, essentially, at the heart of Twitter's entire statement today is saying that transparency is the foundation to public conversations, that it is critical to understand how we engage with the governments, that we value free expression, and that is under threat. The detailed statement that Twitter has come out with. Now, some of you may remember, if you watched our conversation yesterday, we spoke about whether it is right to equate a government order to a social media giant under the Information Technology Act to actually law of the land, because Twitter says it's not consistent with the law. And to what extent is Twitter supposed to follow the government's orders versus their own policy? And is their own policy even neutral, transparent, and can they be held accountable? Some of those questions are back today with these latest developments. So here is what, over the next 1 hour, we are going to largely address. Question number one, is Twitter legally bound to act on orders of the government under the Section 69A of the Information Technology Act? 69A has been frequently used by the government in the last few years to crack down on accounts and handles in the light of misinformation, and even apps, Chinese apps, by the way. Question number two, does the Section 69A of the IT Act need to be relooked? Is there where the contention really lies? How is it used? We'll tell you all about it. Question number three, Twitter's decision to not block certain accounts of media entities, journalists, activists, as per their own policy, is that a neutral policy? How does Twitter decide that certain individuals need to be blocked and others don't if the government's order is under the same law for the same reasons? And question number four, is government statement on Koo, effectively meaning that they first released the statement there, they did put out a tweet later on as well, but is there a warning somewhere to Twitter? They're going to move everything government related to another app, and then what happens to the following of Twitter in our country? So we're going to look at all of this in a larger perspective. Let's say good evening to Sanjeev Sen, Senior Advocate with the Supreme Court, Deshratan Nigam, Advocate with the Supreme Court as well, Pankaj Doval, Senior Editor with the Times of India, Shweta Shalini, Spokesperson for the BJP, and Gurshabad Grover, Senior Researcher for the Center for Internet and Society. Good to have all of you with us. Thank you for joining us. Sanjeev Sen, let me begin with you. And the first question that we're asking is, does Twitter, are they legally bound to follow the orders passed under Section 69A?
You see, the Constitution of India, Article 19, guarantees free speech and expression. That is a cherished fundamental right enjoyed by all citizens of India, and that is one of the touchstones of democracy. Now, having said that, every fundamental right, including Article 19, every freedom that the Constitution grants is subject to reasonable restrictions. Now, what is reasonable restriction has to be decided on the facts of every case. So if a person exceeds the freedom of speech, the freedom which is guaranteed by the Constitution, and if the speech which was given is if the tweet in this case is beyond the limit which is permitted, then it would come within the contours of the word reasonable restriction. Now, what is reasonable restriction has to be decided. In this case, the government has decided that these people have tweeted misinformation, they have tweeted falsity, and if so, then they will certainly come within the parameters of reasonable restriction, and freedom cannot mean propaganda, false propaganda. Freedom cannot mean spreading of falsehood, spreading of incitement to violence, and therefore every freedom has to be limited by reasonable restriction. In this case, the government has decided that this is beyond the freedom which is guaranteed by the Constitution. Now the matter will be in court, and the court will decide whether the government is right or not.
Okay, I'm going to just read out one part of this very, very detailed statement which says, and Twitter says, we have withheld a portion of accounts identified in the blocking orders, which is by the government, under our country withheld content policy. These accounts continue to be available outside India, but if they're putting out anything, it won't be visible to users in India. And so that was one of the ways that they've actually implemented the government's order while following their own policy as well. Because Twitter says, we do not believe that the actions we've been directed to take are consistent with Indian law and in keeping with our principles of defending protected speech and freedom of expression. We have not taken any action on accounts that consist of news media entities, journalists, activists and politicians. To do so, we believe, would violate their fundamental right to free expression under the Indian law. Now, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, if you can explain to our viewers, the contentious part here is Section 69A of the Act. Now, if the government invokes that, there is a committee, I believe, that looks into the case. They decide as per the law, and then action is taken, and the intermediaries are told to follow. Is there a possibility for the intermediaries to say no?
Tanvi, one thing is very clear. Twitter India claims to be an intermediary platform. And on the other hand, they are able to control the content and block the handles. Those two things cannot go together. Once you are an intermediary, you should not be able to interfere under any circumstances. So this is paradoxical and contrary to this thing. And in Prashant Bhushan's case, in para 107, Twitter, in order to show their bona fide, they blocked the handle of Prashant Bhushan. And on the other hand, they had taken the plea that they are intermediary and they don't have any control over blocking or controlling the content. And that point I had also pointed out at that point of time. And Mr. Sen had secondly put it, and let me carry it forward. If we follow what Twitter is saying, it will be a recipe for chaos. Because every individual will be a judge in his own cause, even if he is wronged or right. Once a decision has been taken by the government of India, it can only be challenged in a court of law. A show cause notice for non-compliance was given, and they were supposed to follow it or reply to it. Unusually, they tried to, send a reply in a blog on a public platform, trying to create a public opinion so as to pressurize the government. That's not done. That's something very unusual, and that is what MeitY, the concerned ministry, also, informed through social media. So these are the things. And is it a neutral platform? When the CEO Jack Dorsey, likes the tweets of some of the so-called celebrities in favor of the farm protest, it is clear that it is not a neutral platform. CEO should not have any business of liking or disliking any tweets. He should keep out of it. And I tell you, since I was involved in a case in Delhi High Court, where I have also made a representation to the government on behalf of somebody, and there it was very clear. They were very targetive about a particular kind of, pro-India tweets, and they were trying to block them and select them. And in fact, Sikh for Justice was being promoted by them by taking money. It was an advertising platform. And Sikh for Justice is a banned organization in India, upheld by a single member tribunal of Chief Justice of Delhi High Court. So you cannot be a judge in your own cause. At best, without even going into the merits of the case, you have to go to the court. You can't say, I don't follow the laws of India. I don't follow the Constitution of India. This is my policy. It cannot be your policy or your internal rules versus Constitution of India or the laws of India. Laws of India are supreme and they are applicable all over the world. Please let us be very clear. If you're committing a crime in India, that crime does not mean if it is committed outside, it's not a crime. We have extradition treaties. We have understanding with various countries for such kind of issues. And this is something, let me tell you, Twitter is in for very hard times. And under the law, there could be arrests. And I have named also in the past of various, officials of Twitters from their personal handles. I have seen what kind of venomous tweets they have been doing, and they are holding official positions. Recently, Mahima Kaul resigned from her post. So those are the things I think one has to be very, very careful. And under any circumstances, you cannot be a judge in your own cause, and you have to go to the court. And that is where I think me and Mr. Sen have a congruence.
So, Mr. Sen, okay, so let me ask this question, because this has been, in my many conversations in the last few days, been debated very vociferously. Who will go to the court in this case? Should it be Twitter? Should they implement the order first and then go to court saying we don't agree with it? Do they not implement the order in its entirety as they've done so and then go to court? Or does the government take them to court? How does it work under the law itself, the way the law is prescribed right now?
See, let us be very clear, whether it is Twitter or whether it is anybody else, they are operating in India. So if Twitter wants to operate in India, it has to operate as per the Indian Constitution and the Indian laws. Now, as long as Section 69A of the IT Act is in the statute books and is not struck down, it has to be followed. The Constitution has to be followed. If the government has taken a decision holding that this has gone beyond the boundary of reasonable restriction, it has gone crossed the boundary of freedom of speech, then the government has, in its own wisdom, taken an action. Now, if the government's action is wrong, the only method for a party is to approach the court and settle the grievance. The affected party, now Twitter, has to go to court and test the government's actions and the government's decision in a court of law, and the court of law will decide whether the government is right or Twitter is right. But at the moment, the government has implemented the law and the Constitution, and the Twitter is bound by it unless and until the time this order of the government is set aside by a competent court.
Okay, let me get in Shweta Shalini for a quick response, because Shweta Shalini, here is the social media giant now openly taking the government on and saying that we are exploring options under the Indian law, both for Twitter and for the accounts that have been impacted, that government orders are not consistent with the Indian law, effectively saying that your own order is not good in law.
Sandeep, let's make it very clear. We are a democracy. India is ruled by the Constitution of India. Till the time 69A, the law applies. Every single individual, every organization is bound by law. There are a lot of people, and there is a lot of talk which has already happened. I think Mr. Sen talked about Article 19. I want to talk about Article 14. Article 14 says that everyone is equal before law. Now tell me, the question here that we need to ask a large giant like Twitter is it a platform or is it an editorial content-driven program? because if that is so, then they need to be equal before law. And they do not consider people, say, the left-winging people and the right-winging people even equal. There is a clear bias that is seen. They banned certain accounts. They banned the Trump account because of the capital revolution, so to say. But for the same accounts and for the same event that happened in India, in the Red Fort, nothing was done. So you need to understand there are today at present on a platform Maoists, jihadis, Khalistanis, almost everybody on a platform, and they are committing subversion against India. So if the Indian government has full right to take action against them, and yes, they will have to suffer because they will have to follow the law. Yes, if they have questions, they can go to the court. The court, I'm sure there are two lawyers sitting here and both of them have made it very, very clear. The court at one point of time abolished 66A. Please understand that under 69A, lot of changes. It is not as diverse, as wide as 66A. 69A has very clear-cut safeguards. And hence, I feel personally that if they go to the court, there'll be a hearing and they can...
Before I go to our other two panelists, I have a question for you. If you're saying they will have to suffer the consequences here, why is it that even as we speak, there is a meeting going on between government and Twitter rather than government actually taking legal action against those who haven't followed the law of the land?
No, because it needs to be very clear. We will give every chance to anybody and everybody to ensure that he follows the law. And this is what is written very clearly in 69A. The committee has to conduct a complete intervention that is actually happening. People are talking. Through communication, we've been trying to figure out. In fact, I want to say that under Article 21, you look at what we are talking about. There was clear incitement. Modi planning farmer genocide. This is actual intimidation. So we are talking about right to life. And this is something where government can take action, but because it is an international giant, there are nuances of Article 19 involved. We want to be fair. This government is a fair government.
Okay.
We want to ensure that the committee takes right decision together with Twitter.
Okay.
But it has to be amply clear that nobody can.
Well, I think Twitter with its statement, which is a really, really long statement where they detail the action that they've taken and where they've not taken action and justified it. They've made their stand amply clear. So I don't know, but we will wait and see what happens in this meeting that is happening right now as we speak.
Can I answer this?
Yes, Mr. Nigam.
Can I answer this 10 seconds? Since it was a show cause notice for non-compliance, they have a right to be heard. And therefore, the committee is giving them hearing. And then they will decide whether to pass an order or not to pass an order or what kind of an order is to be passed.
Okay.
So
following the fair process, that's what the government seems to be doing at this point. Okay, point taken. Let me now go across to our other panelists. And Pankaj, I want to come to you first because, yes, there has been much debate about Twitter's actions, where they have been fair, not fair. The other aspect here is, to say, well, they decided that they're going to act only on certain accounts and not on the others. Now, does this show that their own policy overrides the government's orders and the government and the country's law?
Good evening. I think one thing is pretty clear that the law of the land has to be followed. It may be in the right spirit or not is a matter of debate and I think a legal matter. But Twitter at this point in time does not seem to have many options but to follow the law of the land, as other panelists have also said, that this is the law of the land and this needs to be followed in letter and spirit at this point in time. As we speak, the government has very clearly told Twitter, the government in this meeting is going to tell Twitter that the list that they've submitted is non-negotiable. So at this point in time, Twitter does not have many options but to follow what has been told to them, because this is as per the stated laws, as per the constitutional provisions, and the government has followed as per them all the provisions that needed to be followed, because this the initial order of 257 handles that were asked to be banned, blocked, I mean to say, were basically taken as an emergency measure of the government, wherein only the Secretary, IT Ministry, in a very rare kind of an instance, issues such kind of orders, and that was done. And after that, within 48 hours, the government also ratified it by an interministerial committee meeting. So, as far as following the provisions of the law, the government has done that. So, if we go into the merits of it, it could be debated. They can go to court, as everybody is saying, which is the thing. But at this point in time, Twitter does not have much space to maneuver out here, and I think they will have to follow what has been told to them. Yes, later on they can go to court, but otherwise, there is a chance that some of the officials could even be arrested because of it.
So, from your own understanding, what is your view? Why is it that Twitter today, ahead of their meeting with the government, decided to come out with a statement and take such a strong stand?
I think they were just trying to preempt, and they were just trying to make their voice heard, because they had this thing that if we cannot say it like this, it'll be very difficult to put across our viewpoint. And sometimes it is also about local empowerment. Many of the multinational companies, even till now, are governed by people sitting in locations outside the country, and there are instances where the local sensitivities, local issues are not that strongly conveyed to them, or they're not aware of that. And perhaps it could be because of that. So they wanted their statement to be out, before any other action could be taken. And I think while they did that in their wisdom, I think it was not the right strategy, because, they had a meeting with the government, and this just made matters a little tough for them at the end of the day, because, the secretary initially cancelled the meeting, and, the stance that the government is now taking is again going to be very stiff.
Fair enough. Insightful what may have gone within the Twitter camp, why they decided to put the statement before they have that conversation and respond and appear before the government in response to the notice that was issued. But let's get to the question number 2. And question number 2, Gurshahbaz, let's start with you, is that does it mean that we need to relook at Section 69A? Because the government says this due process has been followed. We use this law. These many accounts, are in contravention and violation of the law. The other side says, well, freedom of speech.
Absolutely. I think it's very critical to understand the nature of Section 69A of the IT Act. It is, by design, a really opaque censorship law. It allows the government to pass orders unilaterally, and there is a provision for intermediaries or content creators to get a hearing, and the government has been bypassing that side of the procedure for a long while. This is before the case that was mentioned before Shreya Singhal and after Shreya Singhal. They have been sidestepping that procedure completely. So clearly, when Caravan Magazine's account was taken down, for instance, they did not get a hearing when it was taken down. They did not get a hearing post the issuance of the order, right? So, and what we've historically seen is that there is also a confidentiality provision in the law which is being abused by the government. And therefore, whenever we try to request information from the government about these takedown orders, there is no response. So by design, this is an opaque censorship law that is being used, or should I rather say abused, by the government at large scale to take down content. And for instance, just to demonstrate that this is not just incitement to violence or content of that sort, Caravan Magazine has been tweeting for years, right? Not all of their content is sort of qualifies for any such reasonable restriction. And in the recent order that was sent to YouTube, for instance, music videos related to the protests have been taken down. So this opaque censorship mechanism actually allows the government to censor speech which is totally within constitutional bounds in India. So therefore, it is critical that we look at reform of 69A, and this has been a long pending question, unfortunately, which the court didn't look at in detail in Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. But fortunately, there are cases in the Delhi High Court that may address this problem and the constitutionality of 69A and the blocking rules. Just for comparison, Russia has a similar law for content takedown, and it was struck down. Several parts of it was struck down by the European Court of Human Rights just last year. So it does not align with international human rights standards of free speech and expression. And therefore, that is perhaps the angle that Twitter approaches this problem from. And again, no one is arguing that the government does not have the power to issue such an order. perhaps the debate is whether a fair and just government should abuse such a provision in broad ways. To answer your question briefly again, I think reform of 69A is absolutely critical, and intermediaries and content creators deserve a hearing. And in this case, that is just the power Twitter is exercising.
Okay, so there are two very interesting points that you've raised that I want to take forward. But if I can just very quickly also explain to our viewers what some of you have touched upon. The Shreya Singhal judgment is the judgment by the Supreme Court where Section 66A of the Information Technology Act was then struck down, and it was found to be violative of the fundamental rights of citizens in this country. At that point of time, like Gurshad was mentioning, 69A was looked at, but the thought was that there are enough safeguards. But there are other cases now where it is being looked at. So one thing that I want Mr. Nigam to respond to is if he believes that there are some reforms or changes needed in this section, if it is opaque right now. And secondly, to the point raised, when you decide to take action under this law, who do you hear out? Do you hear out just the intermediaries, or do you also hear out those accounts itself? Should the government have given a hearing, for example, to Caravan?
Let us be again very clear that an aggrieved party can go to the courts. The hearing here will be to the intermediary platforms, because 69A deals with that. Because the government writes to the intermediaries to intercept and block them. And so far as account holders are concerned, they have, if they have anything to say to the government of India, they can approach the courts and take an appropriate order that this is an illegal order. That is how the courts function. Now, I don't think this is an opaque, 69A is opaque, because there are enough safeguards in it. Now, even in this case, if you look at it, the show cause notice for non-compliance has been given. So right to heard is already there, and that is what the law provides. You will not be, held guilty or punished without being heard. And that hearing is being given in a show cause notice. To be given in writing, even oral hearing is also being given. And after that, if the order comes that you have deliberately, willfully non-complied with it, there has to be an order that will follow, and you can challenge that order. You can even challenge the show cause notice itself in the court, as Mr. Sen would agree with me. And therefore, I don't think it is an opaque thing. And yes, I agree that law is evolutionary. Over the period of time, various new situations come, and accordingly, amendments are also made, and courts also look into it.
Gurshad, you want to respond to that?
So 69 of the IT Act is the provision that deals with interception. 69A is the provision that deals with takedown, and that's under discussion here. And so even in Shreya Singhal, why the court saved the section, why it did not strike it down, is because the procedures have a clear statement that the government must make a best effort to find who the content creator is. So the hearing is not just for the intermediary. If I am posting something, then it is my speech and I deserve a hearing before it is taken down. So, and this is the reason why the court saved Section 69A. And clearly, the government has not been making this best effort to provide hearing to content creators. We can't sit here in good faith and say that the government does not know who operates Caravan magazine, right? And similarly, we have a litany of cases where the government has done exactly this. It is not giving a hearing or any notice to content creators and removing content. Millions of tweets have been removed in the past 2-3 years, and this is all available in Twitter's transparency report. The second thing is that, as I said, there is a confidentiality provision in the blocking rules issued under 69A, and therefore I don't think it's incorrect to say that it is an opaque censorship law by design. In fact, if you compare it to other censorship laws that even India has, so when we compare it to how publications are banned in India, that happens through the Code of Criminal Procedure. There is a clear statement that the government must issue a public order to ban such publications. And in fact, the subsequent section in the code says, outlines a procedure for challenging such orders in high courts. So it's very easy for us to sit here and say, they should take it to court, but the provision by design prevents legal challenges to it. So I just wanted to clarify that in terms of what 69A and the blocking rules are.
Okay, before I move on to question number 3 and take it to Pankaj, very quickly, Mr. Sen, do you want to come in on this aspect as well of 69A and if that needs a reform?
Well, 69A, every provision can be misused. You see, the police can misuse a section of the IPC. It all depends on the police. Now, you can't, blame a law there's one thing to blame the law and one thing to blame the implementation. Here, in case, as my friend says, if he feels that whether in the case of Caravan or otherwise, a proper legal procedure has not been followed, a show cause was not given, an adequate opportunity was not given, provisions of the Act was not conferred, was not confirmed, then you are very well entitled to go to the court and court is going to grant you relief. The procedure, the principles of natural justice, which is embedded in our constitution, which is embedded in our administrative law, must be followed and will be followed, and every single constitutional court will grant relief in such a case, in case such action is not followed. So for a faulty implementation in one particular case, I don't think the law, it is fair to blame the law. The same police can do a good job under IPC, same police can do a bad job under the IPC. So I think the government has taken a considered decision in this case. So if Twitter is is aggrieved, it is very well open to it to take the matter to the courts. I mean, there's nothing to prevent it from going to the courts. I mean, Twitter is a billion-dollar organization. Let it go to the courts and test whether they are right or whether the government is right.
All right, let's move on to question number 3. And Pankaj, I want to come to you first. And part of the statement of Twitter also said that we did not take action against accounts of media entities, journalists and activists, even politicians, because that was against our policy and freedom of expression. Now, one question that many are asking is, what is this policy basis which Twitter really decides? Because if you've used the same grounds to block certain other accounts, why is it that the same policy doesn't implement or impact these guys? The rules should be the same for all kinds of individuals.
Twitter, even in the statements that they'd given earlier, had said that we had not blocked some of the accounts because they had stuff which was newsworthy, or which was related to free speech. So obviously, this is debatable whether you have to follow the laws of a country or a content moderation policy of a company. At the end of the day, Twitter is saying that our content moderation policy is generally a little, lax when it comes to, news organizations, media organizations, because, it could be newsworthy content, it could be free speech. If they, it is their stand. And, ideally, one would expect even the government to take a stand like that, because if it's a news organization, there are other forums instead of just asking them to be banned, because we have the Press Council of India, or libel laws are there. So you may not actually go in for, just suddenly saying that, block this handle or block their, I would say, social media handles and all, because that is how they disseminate their news. And, you can always challenge these things at Press Council of India, or as I said, in courts. So, the government could like somebody was saying that implementation is where it comes, it boils down to. In this case, I think the government utilized or that provision of the law, and based on that particular hashtag, which was related to Modi and genocide, farmers genocide, I think they said that whoever used that hashtag should at this point be censured. Let them make a case for themselves in court. Maybe it's done directly by them or by Twitter. But as far as what we feel under the provisions, this is a violation. We've invoked an emergency provision to ask for the blocking of these accounts, and you have to do it because we have gone through the entire process. We are following the law. How opaque or how open or transparent they are is a matter of debate. Again, like many of the Chinese companies, though the nationality was different in that case, but they said that we were suddenly banned. A lipstick company, a lipstick app was said that you're a threat to the national security and things like that. And they said we never even got a chance to explain that themselves. I think Gulshan Badad I'd spoken to him then, and he was making a reference to that as well. So, but at this point in time, it's the content moderation policy of a company versus the law of the land of a country. So I think Twitter has to, at this point in time, at least go through the process and then maybe look for legal recourse or other things.
But it's also a case where you have a social media company, an international company. Actually, it seems that they're the ones who are standing for journalists and activists in a country and their freedom of expression when the government doesn't seem to be doing. Shweta, Shalini, that's the message that's gone out, and that's the way many have reacted to say, oh, the government asked them to block us, but they chose to not do so.
No, unfortunately, Tanvi, I think I don't agree that this is a message that has gone out. It is the message that you have taken out from this. You and the many other people like that have very conveniently taken out. Because the message that has gone very, very clearly is that anybody who's trying to spread fake news, because this entire allegation was Modi planning farmer genocide. How could anybody say this? Did you say it? Then we were not talking about journalists like you. A good journalist will not spread fake news. So we were definitely not talking about media persons. The government was not talking about journalists like you. And that's why it is not fair for you to infer that. Because it's very, very clear. And I will again come to the fundamental question. Is Twitter a platform or is it responsible for the content? Because whatever they are, they need to be very clear in their head. They can't shadow ban certain handles based on edit, based on content, and not do nothing about the others. And if they are a platform, whether they are platform or content, they need to follow the law. Any kind of incitement, any kind of, the word genocide itself is completely wrong because it could create, and it did create ruckus in our country. And they can't, nobody can do that.
No, but so like Pankaj is saying, there are many other ways and platforms and medium to take up this issue if there are journalists, media entities involved or even politicians. But in government's view, the right way was to say blanket ban all of them forever.
No, so Tanvi, do you mean to say that they were journalists, activists who were using this hashtag of Modi planning farmer genocide?
I don't know whether it was reference to that hashtag or not. That's what is being assumed. But here is Twitter saying you asked us to block the accounts. You asked us to block the accounts of activists and journalists. So are you saying you don't agree with Twitter that these guys are journalists and activists and media entities?
We are saying, as for the government, and I am the spokesperson of the political party that runs the government, our party believes that anybody who used a fake hashtag of Modi planning farmer genocide without thinking cannot be a journalist in the true sense and cannot think of India in the true sense, because these are the people who we will and I will term as jihadis, Khalistanis and Maoists. And these people do not need to be, because they are basically subverging against India. We can't afford to have them multiply the narrative. This is against India. And that is the reason why I do not consider them journalists. If you consider them journalists and infer that, that's wrong. And we again want to say that we were specifically talking about that particular hashtag because it was fake news.
Gurshabad wanted to make a point, and then I will go across to Mr. Pavan Duggal. Yeah. Gurshabad, are you able to hear me? Oh, I think there's a problem with this feed. We're going to try and fix that. Let's also say good evening to Pavan Duggal, cyber law expert joining us this evening. Mr. Duggal, the point of contention right now, what we're discussing, is the fact that Twitter said, well, we have decided to not block the accounts of certain journalists, activists, politicians and media entities, even though the government order says so, because it goes against our policy and freedom of expression. Now, even for any social media giant's policy, does it differentiate on who is tweeting that content? Shouldn't the action be basis what content has been put out?
Clearly, it has to be on the basis of what content that's been put out. But I think while taking this particular approach, the concerned service provider has, while relying substantially on freedom of speech and expression, has ultimately forgotten the mere capacity in which the said operator is operating or providing services in India. At the end of the day, this service provider is only an intermediary. It is neither a sovereign government nor a sovereign power, nor an appellate authority over orders passed by Government of India. So if at all this particular service provider is aggrieved by any orders passed by the Government of India in blocking under Section 69A of the IT Act, it has got various legal remedies. It can go and file an appeal under the Information Technology Act 2000. It can approach either the High Courts or the Supreme Court in the writ jurisdiction. But to say that, look, I'm going to stand up and sit in judgment on which portion of the order I'm going to comply with and which I'm not going to comply with because it violates the freedom of speech and expression is something that's currently not permissible under the ambit of Indian law. And I think this is the kind of a fit case where a kind of a Lakshman Rekha needs to be drawn up to say, look, as a service provider, you can only do so much and not beyond. Yes, you may be a big player, you may be a huge data repository, but that power does not actually authorize you to sit on top of the Constitution of India. Look, way back in 2015, in the Shreya Singhal case, the Supreme Court said to all these service providers, guys, you will actually be getting lakhs of requests every month for removal of content, for just blocking content. Please do nothing till such time you either get a court order or an order from a governmental agency. Now, once you've got an order from a governmental agency, you cannot say that, look, I'm not going to really implement it in full. I think the best way is to go and challenge the concerned order. But if you are saying that I'm going to only implement in part and not in full, then please remember that as a service provider, you must now be prepared for three kinds of potential scenarios that are going to be staring you. Scenario one, that you will be stripped of your statutory exemption from legal liability under Section 79 of the IT Act. The safe harbor, the protection that the IT Act has provided you as a service provider will stand evaporated because you have violated the IT law. Number two, you can actually be exposed to criminal prosecution because under Section 69A3 of the IT Act, it's an offense when you do not obey a blocking order, 7 years imprisonment and fine for the top management of the company. And number three, the service provider could also potentially be exposed to damages by way of compensation. So I think a very nuanced stand must be taken in case if the service provider believes that the governmental order violates the freedom of speech and expression, a fertile case for going and knocking the doors of the Constitutional Court to say, look, sir, this is a violation of your Constitution, please strike it down. And if the court either stays it or strikes it down, you already have won your battle of the day. But on your own, if you're going to take on and don the role of the jury, the judge, and the pronouncer of the verdict, then there's going to be an intrinsic problem. And I think at this juncture, all eyes are now on the government on how it kind of comes up with a very strong message to the entire ecosystem. It can either blink and say, I'm not going to do anything, or it can actually take this wonderful opportunity to put its house in order, to review its very soft-gloved approach on intermediary liability, and to send a strong message to all intermediaries that you have to comply with Indian law. Otherwise, India and the Indian economy may not be for you.
So I'm trying to understand, Mr. Duggal, and we had a conversation about this even before you came. From what point of view does Twitter believe that government orders are not as per the Indian law or consistent with the law itself? What is it that they're referring to about Section 69A?
Well, they're only saying that, look, potentially when you're asking us to block so many of these handles, according to us, they have no connection with public order or any of the 7 grounds that are given under Section 69A. Now, if that's the contention that the service provider is taking, clearly the service provider cannot be a jury and the judge. It'll have to be adjudicated by the Constitutional Court, which is either the High Courts or the Supreme Court. So clearly, when you are saying it's not in violation of Indian law, you will have to dive deep. Because when I look at Section 69A of the IT Act, it's exactly mirrored on exactly similar kind of reasonable restrictions as are given under Article 19(2) of the Constitution of India. Twitter has forgotten the fundamental scenario that the Supreme Court of India has already upheld the constitutional validity of Section 69A of the IT Act in 2015. Further, the legal jurisprudence on Article 19(1) and 19(2) are all clearly well established. Potentially, I think there's an effort to read some portion of American jurisprudence under the Indian law, but that's not the position. The Indian law says your fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression is not absolute and reasonable restrictions can be imposed. The reasonable restrictions under Article 19(2) are the same ones which are mirrored under Section 69A of the Information Technology Act.
No, fair enough. And I think reasonable restrictions is what everybody understands, but reasonable as per whom? And who's the deciding authority? Because at the end of the day, it becomes debatable because it's subjective. And you may want to tag anything under, integrity, sovereignty, and play the nationalism card for many, many things, but it may or may not necessarily be valid under those reasons. So, under what circumstances do you use it? Have you correctly used it or not? That perhaps will have to be scrutinized maybe by a court. But the point that I'm trying to understand here is, and Mr. Sen, to you also this question, should we then not have a larger scrutiny of the law itself? Isn't it very open-ended?
I don't think so. I don't think so. In fact, Mr. Duggal exactly mirrored what I had said in the beginning, and I fully agree with him because the section has already been upheld. I've already told you that the section stands as a valid section, a valid statute in a validly enacted law which has been passed by the Parliament of India. Now, the Parliament of India, the legislature, decides as to which law is suitable for this country. Whether they are right, whether they are wrong, as long as the legislature feels so, as long as the judiciary puts a stamp to it, the law stands as valid law. As long as the law stands as valid law, every person who's operating out of India, every citizen of India, all are bound to follow the law. Now, if a particular person or entity like Twitter in this case feels aggrieved and feels that the government has transgressed, as you very correctly said, ultimately, what is reasonable restriction? This entire case boils down to that one small narrow factor. What is reasonable restriction? What is the borderline? What is whether the borderline has been crossed or not? Now, government feels that the borderline has been crossed. If Twitter is not agreeable to that, which I'm sure it is not, it is free to approach the courts of law against the decision of the government, and the courts of law will decide, as I told you, whether they are right, whether they are wrong. But as long as the government decides, for the moment, till it is set aside by a competent court, that's the final view.
Okay. Well, one wonders then what Twitter's strategy here is going to be, because, I mean, obviously they understand the value of business in this country, and for them to come out with such a statement ahead of a meeting with the government where they're supposed to explain themselves is very interesting. We're also very closely tracking that meeting that is currently taking place. The final question, what should one make of what's happening as far as the new app, Koo app, is concerned? Gurshad, again, I'll start off with you. In your view, can that become a big competitor? And I'm asking this question, or can it become an alternate for people here in our country? I'm asking this question because many of the government ministers, many of the government departments and ministries have registered themselves on this app and now seem to be even using it for disseminating official information.
Right. I think historically we've sort of seen the power of the network effects, and through which platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Google have held on to their market share. And of course, nothing prevents you from setting up your own platform as a competitor. If like Koo becomes a viable option for a particular community, that's I think absolutely fine. I think the same sort of laws and procedures apply to them. If I may, at the sort of risk of repeating myself, I'd just say that all laws are valid until they are struck down. We have clearly, if we look at 69A, and there are leaked orders under 69A. As I said, there's a confidentiality provision. It's a law that is often abused. There is no particular section cited about what it's violating. So I think those problems will continue with all of these platforms. And if certain platforms are set up in close proximity with support of ministers, etc., they're actually more likely to be censoring speech rather than challenging unjustified order. So that's a fear we have to look out for any platform.
So Shweta Shalini, should we expect now that the BJP will start putting out its campaign and information and messages more on Koo? That's where we'll get the information from than Twitter?
Why not? I think we are promoting everything Make in India. In fact, we are promoting Make for the World. I'm extremely proud that two young entrepreneurs have come up with an app which is now going to challenge a multinational. I'm switching. I don't know about the party or the government, but I'm switching for sure. And I would advise you too.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to check it out. Gulshabad, I don't know if you've managed to check it out and if there are any differences for viewers who are wondering right now if there are any similarities and differences with Twitter. I mean, I can see some similarities in the way the bird's designed, but yeah, beyond that.
Unfortunately, I haven't had the time to check out Coup, but I'll keep that on my list.
Yeah, because, you know, off late we've attempted to do that with a lot of alternate platforms. There was this big move even earlier when people moved out from Twitter to other platforms, and we saw it with WhatsApp and people moving to Signal. Now is this a concept of Coup. But this time, Mr. Duggal, we've got the government functionaries and ministries, you know, backing it. Considering that it's a homegrown app, it's going to at least follow the norms that the government wants it to in terms of data saving or implementing the policies. Will this be a good option for microbloggers?
Well, clearly, it's definitely a credible option to examine and explore. And it'll be up to the users what they have to do. But if it's a homegrown kind of app, clearly, you have a massive advantage. Number one, your data is going to be within India. Number two, your voice will be heard. Try getting your voice heard in one of these American microblogging platforms. You see that your voice invariably does not get heard. In terms of getting redress to certain of the issues that you would have. And finally, I think since it's going to comply with Indian law, these kinds of these mixed signals that we are currently getting on the other ecosystem will not be got. And finally, I think having such an app could go a way forward, a step forward in India, going ahead and reiterating its cyber sovereignty and data sovereignty. And why not? Anything Indian grown, if it's value for money and if it provides far more services and more significantly also protects our data and complies with Indian law, it could definitely be the option where we should go ahead and explore.
All right. In fact, this app, by the way, won the government's Atmanirbhar app challenge. That's how it actually came about. And because it's, you know, a microblogging app as well, you're seeing that many of the government departments now are pushing this as an alternate to Twitter, which is currently up in arms with the Indian government. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us. I think, viewers, a couple of things to keep in mind. The fact that most of the legal experts will say that yes, there are some contentious clauses and aspects of Section 69A, but currently that is the law of the land, and everybody, including those who do their business in our country and social media giants like Twitter, have to follow it. The fact that Twitter believes government's order, which were under this law, were not consistent with the law itself, and which is why they did not fully implement the government's orders in terms of blocking accounts. They only blocked certain number of these accounts and not all of them, is highly controversial and contentious. There is no denying the fact that when it comes to Twitter's own policy, where they act, when they act, whether they block, whether they suspend, there is a lot of grey area and lack of transparency. We don't know on a daily basis. Just look at the amount of abuse which is there when it comes to women on these social media platforms. The threats, the abuse, the slurs that are actually issued, the hashtags that often trend are very, very violative and abusive. Is Twitter able to do a good and fast job of cracking down on them? No. But when they do take up the case, basis what policy they decide, that itself is contentious. So to my mind, from both the government and the social media giants, we definitely need a lot more transparency, balance and accountability. Let's just admit the fact that social media and digital media is not going away. It's just becoming a bigger and a bigger part of all of our lives. And so we need to get some of these basics straight. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.